Hi, this is Chris from Bench Performance. We have two things to show off today. We've had a lot of questions about how to press these spools out and things like that for the 3000 GT or Dodge Stealth transfer case. And it is a process you need to be careful with and respect. And it may not be immediately intuitive of what needs to be pressed out to do the job. The other thing we wanted to show off is we got our new 50-ton press here from redlinestands.com. And we really like this press. It's fully electric. It's not a pneumatic driven press. And the good things about that are the electric ones are way quieter for one thing. And so with the pneumatic press, everybody in the shop hears it. Everybody's got to wear hearing protection around it and things like that. This is a lot quieter. The other positive thing is it's way faster. You're going to see this thing. We had a 40-ton air over press before, and this is literally 8 times faster in its pressing capabilities. The old one was so slow, we were always trying to rig different adapters in here to get closer to the workpiece and not have to press as far, but this is just way more convenient. This has a lot of other cool features too. It has a winch that moves the table up and down very easily. It also has a side-by-side on the press here, and so you can actually move your RAM to accommodate your work. And that's actually been way more useful than I thought, because we'll often use this throat here to press gears and things out, but we'll use this pad over here to press on bearings. And so we don't have to rotate our press plates near as much by being able to move this head back and forth. So that's been great. So we're talking about the spool here. You'll notice on the input side with the splines, this has a tapered roller bearing. In order to press on the bottom of the gear correctly and not against the face of the teeth, you're going to have to remove this first. So what we just have here is an ordinary bearing splitter. I believe this is an OTC 929. You can see it's had a lot of use, but you can kind of use whatever works for you. As long as it gets underneath this bearing and you're not pulling it up by the outer race, you can even reuse this bearing if it's okay to reuse. So this press has an 8-inch throw on the ram, which is not quite enough for what we're doing here. I don't want to stack a bunch of things on top of here because it's just going to become a heavy press when we try to take that gear off. So I'm going to lift the table and you can see how quick that can be done. So basically there's little safety pins on the table pins, and you can pull these in and out. The bottom ones will have a little load on them for now, so once we start operating the winch we can pull those out. So we'll just set those there safely. Same thing with this other top one. And now we're just going to grab this winch, rotate it, and we're going to go up about a bolt hole. A couple things about that winch. You can see there it has a locking brake, so you don't have to worry about that falling when you let go of it like I did. You'll also see it was pretty easy. With this weight on here, I've had some winch tables that felt like you needed 2 legs and a hand to be able to operate, but this is real easy. And it's not a matter of you're not strong enough to operate certain things. When you're using things day to day, you have to consider what effect is that going to have on your strength and things like that, because it will wear you out if you're using stuff that's hard to use. So we'll go ahead and stick that in. I might have gone a little high, so we're just going to pull it down a little bit. The pins are tapered, so they go in pretty well. Put our safeties on. Now we can put our lower pin in as well, and it has safety too. Same thing on this other side. And the final step is you want to take the load off the winch. So I'll go ahead and lower that because you don't want that cable to experience the pressing force. Obviously that's too much for that. So now we're very close to our ram, so we can do what we needed to do. I'm going to turn on, we'll lower it, and I'll catch it. You can see that very rapidly remove this piece very easily. This taper bearing fits on a press spot on this spool. And the reason we did that is to be able to get to the bottom of that gear easily. I don't really want to put the load on the face. I'm trying to get to the root of where that spool meets itself there. So So what we have here are some heavy duty pressing sleeves here. This is about a 58mm press sleeve, 48mm inside diameter. You can obviously use different methods to do this, but this helps press right up against the actual root of this gear and not the face of the teeth. We'll have to take our bearing press out of the way. And then we're going to slide these together. And we may have to lift our press a little bit. I actually had to lower the press table a little bit just to give us a little more space to work. I also have this adapter here that I've made out of an old spool on a lathe, and you don't really need anything this complicated, but you just need something that will press just on that inner ring there, as you see there. If you press on the second ring, then you're pressing against itself and it's never going to come through. So we go like that, put that there. And this is under a lot of force, so you want to kind of line everything up best you can, but also you want to be kind of prepared. It could make some noises and things like that. Try to stand off the side if you have a remote that you can operate your press on. We have a guard for this press right now, but I have this out of the way so you can see what's going on. But it's also a good idea to have any kind of safety guard in here that you have. So we're just going to press straight down, and you'll probably hear some noises. Okay, you'll see that was a little bit of a violent pressing operation. Obviously plenty safe, but it does make a lot of noise because this is an extremely heavy press fit. And you can see one benefit to our tool as well is it catches itself so it doesn't fall on the ground. We don't have to worry about that. But the spool will shoot on the ground, and it's best just to stay out of the way in case there's any force underneath that. So you can see here, this is basically the ring gear here, this crown gear inside your transfer case. This is what actually presses onto this spool here, and this is what the drive from your transmission comes to, and actually will drive your transfer case as one piece. That's just a press fit, so it has to be a very heavy press fit because it transmits all your car's power, and this never slips. So it's quite a press fit. One thing also to note while you got this apart, if you're wanting to replace this bearing here on this tapered roller bearing, you may want to do it now because usually they'll come apart just like that. And the reason they do that is because when this piece is pressed in here, the diameter of that actually increases enough to make this really tight. And so if you're going to replace that, just go ahead and make it easier on yourself. Otherwise, you'll have to use a bearing splitter and pull it back apart. So next, we're going to go ahead and replace this spool. I'm going to take this off just to make it easy for us, because we're going to go ahead and place this portion here so the flat part of the gear sets against our press table here, and that's going to be very, very secure. And we're also going to go ahead and take our spool. This could be your new or replacement spool. If this is a new or replacement spool, you're going to have to verify your carrier preload, which is the spacing between the two sides of your transfer case housing. If you put a new spool in there, particularly on the 5-speeds, it seems like on this side behind the bearing race, you need a little bit less shim, about 1/10 of a millimeter. But you're going to want to check that either with the solder method or by feel. It should not be locked up. When you put the side cover of the transfer case on, if that is locked up, it's too tight, it's going to overheat the bearing. It should take some drag to turn, so it also shouldn't just spin freely. So kind of somewhere in between there, a light to medium drag, enough that you could, for instance, put an output shaft into the spool and rotate that by hand. You can also do the solder method, which you'd want to do between 0.1 and 0.2 millimeters of preload based on your solder measurements. We're going to go ahead and press this back in. This may not have quite enough throw to do this too, but we'll see here, and we may have to add a little spacer here on top, no big deal. You want to get this started as straight as you can. There's a taper to this spool here, so it makes it pretty easy. What I like to do is press it in just a little bit, wait for it to try to straighten itself out, and then I'll back off and take another approach to it. That way everything kind of levels out. So let's go ahead and press this together. Okay, so we got that started. I'm gonna back off, just so it flexes everything into its happiest spot. You'll notice I removed my hand from that spot when we were getting ready to press, so it doesn't try to pinch my glove or my finger in there. Now I'm completely out of the way. So I'm gonna stand over to the side in case something were to happen with this spool. It's not gonna be in my impact path. Okay, you can see we did have enough length for that, and that's great. You can see here also, even with that much load on it, this 50-ton press from Redline stands, really just push that in. So we're really impressed with this press. With our air over a 40-ton hydraulic press, it would take a long time for that to come down, and it was a lot less smooth. So we find that this hydraulic pump pushes it in better than hammering it in, kind of basically is what a lot of the air ones will do. I have heard of people trying to do this with a 20-ton press, and most of the time it overloads the press and the press starts to bend, and it's a dangerous operation. We will do the spool pressing for you for $59, including sending the spool back to you. So if you're going that route to rebuild your own transfer case, you don't have access to a press like this, or you don't feel like someone that you know is going to be safe on this part, just let us know and buy it from the website. We'll take care of that. We ship them right back out the same day we get them in, so it's a quick process. Don't let anybody heat this gear. Okay, some machine shops and things like that might have a 25-ton press, and it's kind of at the limits of what it can do, a 30-ton press, and they'll heat this up with like an acetylene torch or MAP gas or something like that. If you start to change the color in this at all, you're actually taking some of the hardening out of it, and you're going to have a lot of gear wear. So that's why it's important to do this cold. Now, if you want, you could certainly put your spool in the freezer, and that would certainly push together a little bit easier with the strength of our press and things. We just don't have to do that step, and so it's pretty easy. At this point, we could press this bearing back on, which I'll show you that just for kicks. But really, not a hard operation if you got the right tools, but one of those operations you really don't want to try if you don't. It's just not worth the risk. If your press blows up with 40,000 pounds of force onto it, you could get killed. And so we don't want to do that, and that's why we offer that press spooling service. We don't do that because we're trying to make a lot of money. I'm really just trying to help keep people on the road. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this bearing back on. So you can see here that our sleeve contacts right the strongest part of that gear. That's another thing a lot of shops will do too. And when we very first started, before we kind of figured this out, we used to put a soft piece of metal here and press against the teeth. And I've since come to believe that that's kind of hard on the teeth, and there's a possibility for chipping a tooth, so I wouldn't do that method if you can help it. So we'll just go ahead and stick that in here. Again, a nice thing about our press, we can actually just move the head here. I'm going to turn this on. This is when it's important to have a spacer like this. Never want to press a bearing by its outside diameter. This is only contacting the inside diameter. And that's really it. You can also hammer those bearings on. I don't like to do it because I feel like it is a little hard on the bearing. And since we have a press that's really fast, I always use a press for bearing races just because you're squared up with all this, and so you're not going to get that bearing cocked like you might if you're driving it on by hand. So thanks again for checking out our video. I know it probably wasn't the flashiest video out there, but I know it's going to help a lot of people. And please upvote it if you like it. And please visit our site at revengeperformance.com and see if there's anything we can do for you.